Hello, hi, welcome to Yedidia Shofet, and welcome to Halacha of the week number 57. Today's question, which was addressed to the Chief Rabbi, is, Rabbi, what constitutes as a primary and as a secondary when it comes to blessings? So let's explain. Let's imagine we're at a wedding. At the wedding, you go to the table. Now the fruit table, there are vast amounts of products. Now you want to choose what to say blessings on. So, if you have, let's say, an orange and you have an apple, so what do? You say, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, borei peri ha'etz, which means the tree blessing. And you eat the orange and you don't even have to say a blessing for the apple. Why? Because you said one blessing, you can cover both of them. However, if you see over there a cucumber, could you say ha'etz on the cucumber? Because the cucumber is from the ground, meaning it's not from a tree. No, you say ha'adama, you say a different blessing for the cucumber. So that itself, each of them is a primary. You take a Danish, you're having the primary, which is the Danish itself, and then on your plate you have an orange. That's another primary. You make the blessing on the orange yourself. The cucumber, the tea, the candy, the cakes, all the different types of passion fruits, all the things that are there. You make each one a primary blessing, especially when it comes to different crackers and part of the seven species, pomegranates, you make your own blessing. This you make your own blessing. Well, obviously, if you didn't make the blessing before, each one deserves its own blessing because it's a primary. If it's a primary, it means that each one has its own value by itself. It doesn't need something else to give it a value. So the question is, so then what is considered secondary? So I'll give you an example. A secondary blessing is where you make a blessing on one item. Now that item is a mixture of two different types of blessings. For instance, imagine a chocolate Danish. You take a chocolate Danish. If you eat chocolate by itself, what do you make the blessing? Shahakol. Because chocolate itself, whether milk chocolate or you're looking at the bittersweet chocolate, it's only consisted of a shahakol blessing. There's no grains in there. It's strictly just cocoa butter, margarine, oils, sometimes butter, sometimes milk. That's all it is. It's strictly, and it's considered shahakol. But what about the Danish part itself? That's wheat. That's actually worked out almost like it's a breaded-like material. So you say mizonot. So do you pick up a chocolate Danish and say borei minei mizonot and say shakol ni'al bidvaro? No. You only say borei minei mizonot. You only say one. Because why? Because the primary is the Danish. The chocolate is added flavors, it's added parts to the Danish. So in that case, it's a secondary helping with a primary. So what does that mean? That means in cases where you see a mixture, or it's stuck together, where the primary is eaten and the secondary is just a flavor, or through the secondary it allows you to eat the primary, then the secondary doesn't even require any type of blessing. For instance, what do you have over here? You have different types of fruits. Sorry, not fruits. You have different types of foods known as potato chips. Potato chips. What do you have? You have dips. So there's salsa dip. There's yogurt dip. There's all these avocado dip. Now you would have to make blessings on the dips if you eat them by themselves. But the thing is, no one eats dips by themselves. I mean, most people don't. So you take a potato chip and you dip it into, let's say, into a yogurt. So you should say ha'adama, and you should say shakol for the yogurt. But what do? You only say borei peri ha'adama, and you eat the chip. Why do you do that? Because by the chip is the primary food over here. The yogurt, all it is to accompany the taste of the chip. And by doing that, what happens is you only say a blessing on the primary, it takes care of the secondary. The only exemption to this rule is by the 5 species of grain, for instance, by wheat, by barley, by spelt, by oat and rye, by these type of species. Basically, since they're grain and they're worked on, and they themselves have a value of their own entity, meaning they themselves are worth something that you have to make a bracha on them by themselves. So if you're going to have for instance, if you're going to have a Kit Kat, now you want to say the chocolate is a primary. However, inside of the Kit Kat, there's a wafer. That wafer automatically makes that chocolate bar a mizonot, because the highest value of the bar is not the chocolate, it's rather the wafer inside. Because the wafer, in order to make wheat into a cracker type material, it takes a lot of work, a lot of refinement, and because of that, it has its own value. So therefore, anything that's with a wheat or barley type food, it gains that blessing as a primary. Anytime where it's anything else, you have the rule that if you eat the secondary only to accompany the primary, you make the blessing on the primary and not the secondary. I wanted to wish you a beautiful day. We'll hopefully go into more easier concepts, such as when does this apply. For instance, by sushi, which one do you make the blessing on? By coffee and donut, do you make a blessing on both or on one? By cereal, when do you make the blessing? Maybe the only time you eat cereal is when it's accompanied with milk. Maybe it's not. So we'll go into that, God willing, later on. And for now, I'll see you tomorrow for Jewish Wisdom of the Week. Take care.